They say intuition is the whisper of the soul. For me, it started as a nagging sensation, a cold shiver running down my spine whenever I looked at my wife, Lydia. After 10 years of marriage, I thought I knew every expression, every gesture, every little quirk that made her who she was. But lately, something had shifted, like a painting tilted slightly off-center, not immediately noticeable, but wrong enough to make you uneasy. The changes were subtle at first. Lydia started working later than usual, claiming big projects and important client meetings. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and she'd giggle at messages, quickly turning the screen away when I walked past. The woman who once shared everything with me now guarded her digital life like a fortress. "It's just work stuff," she'd say with a dismissive wave, but her eyes would never quite meet mine. I remember the exact moment my suspicions crystallized. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was helping Lydia clean out her purse, something we used to do together while watching TV. That's when I found it, a crumpled receipt from La Maison Rouge, one of the most romantic restaurants downtown, the kind of place where lovers propose and celebrate anniversaries. The date on the receipt was from a night when Lydia had told me she was working late with her team. When I casually mentioned the receipt, her reaction told me everything I needed to know. She stammered, her usual composure cracking like thin ice. "Oh, that was just a client meeting," she managed, but her fingers nervously twirled her wedding ring, a tell she'd had since our first date. The lies felt like acid in my stomach, but I forced myself to smile and nod. A detective doesn't spook his suspect too early. Over the next few weeks, I became a shadow investigator in my own marriage. I started noting patterns. Every Thursday lunch break, her location showed her downtown, miles from her office. Her overtime work coincided with nights when she came home smelling of unfamiliar cologne. The signs were there, like breadcrumbs leading to a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to find. The breakthrough came when Lydia fell asleep on the couch one evening, her phone unlocked beside her. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her messages. The contact was labeled Mark, Work, but these weren't professional exchanges. "Miss your touch," one read. "Last night was amazing," said another. My wife's responses made me physically ill, counting the minutes until Thursday, and "you make me feel alive again." Mark turned out to be Mark Anderson, a smooth-talking account manager at her firm. Married, 2 kids, house in the suburbs, the perfect picture of domestic bliss, just like I thought we had. I dug deeper, tracking their movements, documenting their meetings. Each piece of evidence was a nail in the coffin of my marriage, but I needed more than just proof. I needed them to feel the full weight of their betrayal. The opportunity presented itself when Lydia mentioned her upcoming presentation to a major client. She'd been preparing for weeks, calling it her make-or-break moment. The irony wasn't lost on me. It would indeed be breaking something, just not in the way she anticipated. I spent days planning every detail, making sure the timing would be perfect. On the morning of her presentation, I kissed her goodbye like any other day. "You're going to do great," I said, watching her smile with what I now recognized as guilt behind her eyes. As soon as she left, I put my plan into motion. A quick visit to the florist for a beautiful arrangement, her favorite lilies, a touch I knew would make her lower her guard, then to the print shop where I had prepared a special package. I parked across from her office building, watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Lydia commanded the room in her power suit. She was always confident during presentations, one of the things I used to admire about her. The delivery boy arrived right on schedule, interrupting her mid-sentence with what looked like a congratulatory gift. The client team smiled, probably appreciating what they assumed was a thoughtful gesture. Lydia's face transformed as she opened the box. First came confusion at the photos, screenshots of her intimate messages with Mark, carefully annotated with dates and times. Then panic as she realized what she was holding. The note I included was simple. "The truth has a way of coming out. Check your email." In her inbox, she'd find copies of everything I'd sent to HR and Mark's wife just minutes before. The presentation fell apart as Lydia tried to maintain composure, but the damage was done. Through the window, I watched her professional facade crumble as she excused herself, nearly running from the room. I knew where she'd go next, the same coffee shop where she and Mark had conducted their affair in plain sight, thinking nobody would notice. I followed her there, watching as she frantically called Mark. He arrived looking disheveled, his own world already unraveling from my morning deliveries. That's when I made my entrance, dropping more photos on their table. "Surprised to see me?" I asked, enjoying how they both flinched at my voice. "I thought we should have this conversation in person." Lydia tried to explain, tears streaming down her face, but I cut her off. "Save it for your lawyer," I said. "Your things are in storage, the locks are changed, and divorce papers are being drawn up. You wanted excitement in your life? Well, here it is." Mark sat there silent, probably thinking about his own wife reading those messages at that very moment, about his children, about the HR meeting scheduled for tomorrow. As I walked away, leaving them to deal with the ruins of their choices, I felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. The woman I had loved for 10 years had become a stranger, but in exposing her betrayal, I had reclaimed something of myself. Their affair had been built on whispered lies and stolen moments. My revenge, that was built on cold, hard truth. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. Mark's wife filed for divorce, and he lost his job once HR finished their investigation. Lydia tried everything: tears, apologies, promises to change, but there was no going back. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. They say living well is the best revenge, but I disagree. The best revenge is making sure the truth speaks louder than the lies.